From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Oyato.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, federal government steps into the armored car purchase scandal, sets up three-man committee to investigate aviation minister. Abuja High Court to begin trial of Honorable Farouk Lawan over alleged $620,000 bribe, sets aside November the 27th for trial. Senate begs ASU to return to the classrooms in the interest of the students. And the Vatican suspends a German bishop for alleged lavish spending.
On business news tonight, the House of Representatives summons the Finance Minister, CBN Governor, over the state of the Naira.
And on sports news tonight, Bayelsa United seek justice against biased officiating. Club to petition NFF over referee Leo Martin's decision to allow a legitimate goal against Gombe United.
Good evening, I'm Gloria Omezuke. Live from Abuja, we bring you stories on the federal government and ASU dispute, the verdict of the appeal court on Anambra PDP candidate for the governorship, and our community report tonight on the Ajegunle electricity situation. What began as a mere rumor has not only been confirmed by the federal government, but is now to be investigated. The Federal Executive Council today set up a three-man investigative panel to unravel the circumstances surrounding the procurement of 2 armored vehicles by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, allegedly for the aviation minister. Briefing journalists in Abuja after the council meeting, the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Dr. Reuben Abati, said the panel will be headed by a former head of service of the Federation, Sali Bello.
Having received information about the reported purchase of armored vehicles by the NCAA and the various allegations, President Goodluck Jonathan had taken the initial step of asking the Minister of Aviation, Ms. Stella Odua, for explanations. And I think that is in the public domain. So it will not be right to say that the President is not well seized of the matter. But also, President Jonathan has also to be taking a step further, and you will probably be the first set of Nigerians to hear this, by setting up an administrative panel of inquiry, a 3-man administrative panel of inquiry. This panel has the assignment to investigate whether the procurement process with regard to these armored vehicles follow due process. This 3-man panel is also to find out the purpose for which the vehicles were procured, and then to inquire into any other incidental matter. This 3-man panel will be chaired by the immediate former head of service of the Federation, Alhaji Sali Isa Bello. The National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, will be a member of that administrative panel. And then we have as the 3rd member, Air Vice Marshal Dick Irue Nabere, retired.
Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Dr. Reuben Abati. Now, while Ms. Odua's response to the Presidency's query is being awaited, there are reports that the Aviation Minister is in Israel. She is, however, not listed among the team accompanying the President, who is also in Israel on a pilgrimage. President Jonathan is expected to sign a bilateral air service agreement with the Israeli government as part of his state visit on the sidelines of the pilgrimage. In the meantime, a group of anti-corruption campaigners led by a former lawmaker, Dino Melaye, today stormed the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, demanding the removal of the Minister of Aviation, Stella Odua. This is coming on the heels of the news of the purchase of 2 armored cars worth about 255 million naira by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, allegedly for the minister. However, the protest got dramatic as another group staged a counter-protest in support of the embattled aviation minister. Meanwhile, reports say the police have arrested Mr. Melaye. $255 million naira. Well, that's the whopping sum with which the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority purchased 2 BMW armored cars for the Minister of Aviation, Stella Odua. Many industry practitioners believe this is a breach of the NCAA's autonomy. In our next report, our aviation correspondent takes a look at the issues surrounding the scandal.
All we do is to do everything to ensure that we do not have accidents. But it's an act of God.
This statement may have blown the lead for many industry practitioners who feel that the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority may not be biting the way it was designed to act.
The real problem with NCAA is of a bearing influence of the ministry.
Then, like a torrent, the purchase of 2 BMW bulletproof cars for the Minister of Aviation by the regulatory agency breaks, as the agency insists it got approval, but the National Assembly disagrees.
Well, NCAA in its budget and that thing was brought. They said security and armored vehicles, purchase of security and armored vehicles. And it was a lengthy debate, and we rejected it.
The Committee on Aviation and the House of Reps has an oversight, function on my organization, as much as the Senate House Committee on Aviation. So there is no document, if I'm talking about IGR approvals and all that, yes, it must go through those processes.
Approved or not approved, the federal government has set up a 3-man committee to get to the root of the matter, and most aviation practitioners are waiting with bated breath to see what the outcome will be. Bukola Joe Oketumbi, Channels Television News.
Well, troubling times indeed for the aviation sector and the minister. And to take a look at the implications of all these interesting developments, I'm now being joined on the News at 10 by a legal practitioner, Mr. Tete Michael Adam. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you.
Now, there's no shortage of opinion on this matter. Everyone seems to have something to say about it. But let's look at the legal angle, being that you're a lawyer and all. We have a 3-man committee that has been set up to investigate this whole thing. What do you think they need to do legally, or what do you think they need to do immediately to let Nigerians know that this is just not another exercise in futility?
Thank you very much. Firstly, I agree with the President that there is a necessity to set up a panel of this nature. It's within the ambit of the law to set up such panels, because issues that have come into the public domain are necessarily of interest to the public. And so it is going to be unwise to begin to form opinion or be judgmental without fact-finding. There are rules about purchases for public utilities. You look at the provisions of the
Public Procurement Act.
Yes, the Public Procurement Act. It makes specific provisions for what should be done during purchases. So in this case, one cannot categorically say it's wrong or right until we've gotten the details. And so that's why we may not be too hasty in coming to conclusions. So it's better we abide the decisions of the administrative panel.
But looking at it is an administrative panel. What is the significance of that in terms of what they're going to be able to achieve? We've seen this before. The panel sits, recommendations, then we take our time to decide whether those recommendations are necessary. It all dies down. Is this going to be the same sort of thing?
I agree that in times past, history has shown us that panels are set up and investigations done, and most of the time it's swept under the carpet. But one important element must be stressed, and that is the necessity for the public to be informed. Anything that's got to do with governance is not just for the leaders. Those that put them in, presumably put them in power, must be able to tell precisely whether those they empower to take control of the reins of power, whether they're doing well or not. In this case, one important use of this panel is that it's going to open up the issues at stake.
Speaking up about opening up the issues at stake, they have 2 weeks within which to do that. And as we gather, the aviation minister is off in Israel. And obviously she would be a key person they would want to speak with. So how much information are we really going to gather with her off where she is?
Government is run in a continuum. There is no vacuum. The minister may have traveled to Israel, but the details of this transaction, the much we know, shows that it's really from one of the parastatals and not really from the minister's table. So it is still an important point to be made that the minister should be heard, but we should be able to get enough details before she arrives.
Okay, let me just ask, there are 2 angles to it. You have the NCAA who have said this whole thing has followed due process, and in the House of Reps that say, hang on a minute, we didn't quite, approve that. What we approved were utility vehicles. Legally, can they really have that argument? This is the NCAA now. Are they in order, in terms of everything is okay?
The question to be asked is, what do we mean by utility vehicles? Within the ambit of the work of the aviation industry, is it normal to have armored vehicles or vehicles that you call bulletproof? What are you really running after bulletproofs for? I can't but remember the opinion of Machiavelli, Nicole, in his writing The Prince. He said, look, don't ever think you can secure yourself. The greatest way you can secure yourself is the love of the people. If you build fortresses and the people hate you, you can't say you're safe. So if the essence is to keep the minister safe, it is really a wrong approach to it. The greatest business of government, according to the Constitution, shows clearly that it is the security and welfare of the people. So if government spends so much on armored tanks, it's the wrong way to handle the business of
And we do hope
government.
that everyone on that panel is listening tonight and will see your advice as necessary and important. And with that, we're going to thank you for joining us on the News at 10. I've been speaking with the legal practitioner, Mr. Tete Michael Adam. We've been looking at developments in the aviation sector surrounding the whole issue of those armored vehicles and what's going to happen now as that committee is set up to look into it.